recording right now. Again, good morning or good afternoon. It's noon here, and I'm providing this Earth Day update on behalf of Lundale Farm. Um, I'm going to go ahead and get started here with our mission and vision statement that has been revised. So, our board of directors has embarked on a really exciting opportunity to do some strategic planning and update who we are and what we envision we're going to be doing in the future. So, our vision is basically our former mission statement that we're a sustainable farming community that's a place of inspiration, innovation, and opportunity for new farmers, landowners, and those committed to locally grown food. That commitment has not changed through this process. We did update our mission statement, though, to be a little more inclusive of all of the things that we're doing at the farm, that we are a community of regenerative farmers enhancing the ecology, health, and diversity of the land, and serving as a model for local food production and forest stewardship on preserved land. This is an evolution from our founding family, the Morris family's land preservation legacy that seeks to not just preserve land, but to utilize it in a responsible manner that's mutually beneficial for the region's environment, economy, agricultural heritage, health, and the nutrition of its people. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Through the strategic planning process, we've identified that currently we are a private foundation and have begun some research to determine how we can become a public charity in the next few years. Becoming a public charity is a 5-year process, so we're excited to get started, see where we are, and try to make this a public charity. We do have 520 acres total, and all of that is under conservation easement. What we refer to as the main farm off of Pottstown Pike on Route 100 is preserved through the National Trust for Historic Preservation out of Washington, D.C., and the remainder of the property is under easement with the French and Pickering Creeks Conservation Trust, which Sam and Eleanor Morris helped create in the 1960s. About 320 acres of our land is tillable and is fully leased at this time. At Lundale Farm, we have 9 independent for-profit businesses, including 4 families who live on the property. We do have 4 houses, and our families that live there typically have a type of operation that requires them to be close by, like a greenhouse or livestock. Providing this housing for the farmers nearby where they have their livestock or sensitive plants in like a greenhouse provides them opportunity to really grow their business and be there whenever it's needed most. Lundale Farm is unique in that it's not an incubator. So, in an incubator program, our farmers would be required to move off of the land in a reasonable amount of time. For example, the Seed Farm in Emmaus is a organic vegetable production and a training program for beginning farmers. And they allow farmers to stay on the property and begin their business for 3 years. But after that 3 years is up, they're required to leave. At Lundale, that's not our goal. Our goal is to do long-term leases so that our farmers, as long as they're comfortable and we're comfortable having them, if there's a mutually beneficial relationship there, these farmers can stay as long as it's suitable for both them and us. For example, we typically start with a 1-year lease just to iron out all the details and make sure that everything is under control and needs are identified appropriately. And then we'll move into a longer term lease, maybe 2 or 3 years. And then for a longer commitment type lease, say our orchard, for example, has a much longer term lease because the investment and the time required to actually make a profit off of that type of business takes significantly longer. Of course, there's always operational needs like new electrical service and building maintenance. I think that happens with anything when you own a building or land or Even your car, for example, as time goes on, you realize that there's needs for that, and they need to be addressed. And oftentimes, they're very expensive. I like to say, wait until you put a whole bunch of farmers together in one place, and you'll quickly learn what your limited resources are. At Lundale Farm previously, that was electrical service, but thanks to grants from the very generous grants from the Sperlino family, who also are Lundale Farm board members, we've overcome that need and are on to the next, unfortunately. Our next strategic initiative at Lundale Farm is to increase our educational outreach. This would be both to landowners and to our community regarding regenerative agriculture. For landowners, we'd like to help you build a lease so that you could lease land to your farmers for food production. It's really easy to get a lease together for a row crop farmer that's doing corn, soybeans, hay. In Chester County, it's very popular to say that you're raising hay for the mushroom industry, but that doesn't directly contribute to our local food system. So we've ironed out some details, and we've learned a lot of things through this process over the last 10 years that the nonprofit has been as an organization. And we feel that we're ready to share what we've learned with other landowners. I'm going to take a minute for you to meet our farmers and learn some exciting things that they have happening this year. The first is True Leaf Microgreens. Eric Franks has been at Lundale Farm the longest. He raises microgreens for restaurants primarily. COVID 19 unfortunately hit Eric the hardest. He is right now not in production because 95% of his sales was to the restaurant industry. So he kept going back when COVID hit in March and grew for an additional year, but over the winter became very difficult whenever outdoor dining was suspended, and most restaurants were required to go down to a very low occupancy, and many switched to takeout, which, as you can might imagine, these precious microgreens that are very small, while very nutrient dense, do not hold up well for to go packaging. So unfortunately, he has shut down temporarily, but we hope that he'll be back up and farming again soon. French Creek Organic Cider Orchard is operated by Dale Friends, a retired architect in the Westchester area. Dale is growing heirloom apples on about 11 acres on our Outlook field for hard cider production. Most of his varieties are heirloom, and some of them are good for eating, and you might find them available locally sometime in the next few years. Ironstone Farm is operated by a mom and daughter pair, Kim Cooper and Natalie Albano. They're doing grass fed beef and pastured poultry. Exciting opportunity for them this year is that Kim and Natalie are launching a mobile poultry processing operation. So many of the small poultry processors, especially those doing pastured poultry in southeastern Pennsylvania, they need to process their chickens, but don't have to do it under USDA inspection if they're under a certain threshold. This business that they've created is a trailer that would go to farmers' locations, to their farms, and process their chickens for them on site using all the equipment in this trailer. So Natalie has really enjoyed learning about poultry processing over the past few years. She graduated from high school last year, and this is an exciting opportunity for her. Tom Wolzanowski has been farming at Lundale Farm the longest of any of our farmers, that's for sure. You may know his farm from being on Pewtown Road. And Tom is going to be raising some corn and soybeans, and this year sunflowers at our main farm. So we're really looking forward to having a fall sunflower day at Lundale Farm. So we'll open the farm to the public so that guests are able to take pictures with the beautiful sunflowers. Emma Cuniff at Nehi Farm as our produce farmer on Coventryville Road. She manages about 5 acres and a CSA for just about 100 families. She also participates in the Swarthmore Farmers Market, and new this year, just this past weekend, Emma and her partner Aaron DeLong got married at Lundale Farm in our machine shed where we usually hold events. She is taking his name, I've learned, so it will be Emma DeLong. And Emma and Aaron are opening Red Dog Market on Route 23, right next to Coventryville Road. And that'll open shortly. They got held up with some inspection details with the state, but they are getting ready and will be opening. There'll be a local local food store, grocery store type operation right there on Route 23. It sounds like they're really interested in doing drip coffee and some breakfast sandwiches. So if that is exciting for you and you're in the neighborhood of Lundale Farm, know that that opportunity is coming to you. Austin Unruh is the farmer with Crow and Berry Land Management. He works in cooperation with Stroud Water Research and has 3 acres of what we call a multifunctional riparian buffer. So riparian buffers have many benefits for stream, including temperature control and wildlife habitat. What Austin is doing with Stroud is planting varieties of pawpaws, persimmons, brambles, nut trees, and willows, both edible and for the florist industry, and showing that these riparian buffers can produce an income for farmers in certain circumstances. Pasture Song Farm is north of Route 23. You may see the trailer out by the highway with some flowers on it from Clara's cut flower operation. She has beautiful flowers right now. I know that the ranunculus and um, there's some other flowers that she has blooming right now. Lots of tulips. That's the word I was looking for. So definitely stop by on the weekends and see if her flowers are out and available for you. She and her partner Jeremy and their daughter Jessa are also raising pastured pigs and grains to feed their pigs, including corn and soybeans, and doing some forage mixes that the pigs also graze on. Jason Hurst at Hurst Farm Works. I had a picture of his combine a little bit earlier in the presentation. Jason raises crops for dairy farms for dairy feed. And then the other photo is of Aaron DeLong, Emma's partner at Grasshopper Flowers. He grows some flowers at Nehi Farm and also is new this year going to be doing an agroforestry project in our woodlands around golden seal. We have a small golden seal population at Lundale Farm, and he's going to possibly look at propagating it in new ways. New to Lundale Farm in the past 2 years, back in 2019, Lundale Farm embarked on a forest management stewardship plan. We did have one published and written for us by Jacob Schultz of Schultz Forestry and Consulting Services. As you can see here, there are many, many, many invasive plants that really enjoy the woodlands at Lundale Farm. And so through this forestry project, we're hoping to take our even stance and create a little bit more unevenness. So taking out some trees, planting some desirable trees to be the next generation of trees, kind of like we're raising the next generation of farmers, raising the next generation of trees in the forest. And we will require a lot of help to maintain those invasive weeds in the forest. Here's a little timeline of what we did. Back in August of 2011, right after Lundale Farm became a nonprofit organization, French and Pickering Creeks Conservation Trust provided an opportunity to do a botanical inventory of the property just to see what plants are already at the farm. In 2018, spotted lanternfly and the lanthus trees at Lundale Farm were absolutely out of control. And we had a very large concern about ailanthus trees around the orchard and how that they would impact the apple trees, especially as they were just getting established. So 2 volunteers, our board member, Dr. Kevin Hicks, and then his longtime colleague at the USDA, Dr. Mike Haas, came and removed over 100 ailanthus trees around the orchard field using organic methods and not the traditional Roundup at the cut ailanthus tree. They used Epsom salts instead to cut back the tree and also the shoots that would come off of it. And through that project realized that our forest needed some help, needed some work. So we created the forestry committee in 2018. We interviewed two foresters, French and Pickering Creeks Conservation Trust, Natural Lands, the Nature Conservancy, PADCN, Department of Conservation and Natural Resources forester, and a Natural Resources and Conservation Service officer from the USDA to try to figure out the best way to regenerative farm care for using regenerative practices our forest, because there's almost 200 acres of it. And we definitely want to make sure that we are taking care of the forest in addition to just the tillable land. So in 2019, we did have the Sustainable Forest Management Plan written, and now we're in the process of implementing that. Currently, we are pending logging. So we have marked trees and bid out the logging to companies. We've had two respond, and we are checking up on interviewing that logger and their references to see if that would be a good fit for Lundale Farm. And if it is, then we may do some logging activity this season in 2021. If that happens, we will also need to do brush management and use possibly a forest mulcher to get the invasive trees under control, plant some trees, and then continue to manage those invasive plants to give the trees the best opportunity to survive. And then, as you can see, we do have a plan for the next 3 years following that as well. How you can help us steward the forest? So glad you asked. It's going to take a tremendous amount of funding and a tremendous amount of volunteers. So if you'd like to volunteer to help remove some of those invasive plants, we'd love to have you at the farm. Otherwise, if you're able to make a financial contribution to help support us in that process, we'd absolutely appreciate that. How can you visit Lundale Farm? There's many reasons that Lundale Farm is not open to the public on a regular basis. First and foremost being we have 9 family farms there, and we are not a preserve and we're not a petting zoo. And we are a working farm. So we need to protect the families that are there and their livelihood and business. We do hope to have part of the farm open to the public in the future, but we're just not quite there yet. We are a host site for the Chester County Studio Tour this year, May 15th and 16th, so Saturday and Sunday. About 5 artists will have their paintings on display in our machine shed. So we're very excited to host that studio tour again this year. The art is absolutely beautiful, and all of these artists are committed to painting on preserved land and have an appreciation for conservancies and the work that they do to maintain open space. June through October, once a month, we will hold a wagon ride farm tour. And this year, we hope to have some open farm days where you can come and walk on the farm road and enjoy the farm. And like I said earlier, for Tom Olzanowski, we are hoping to have a sunflower celebration sometime in the fall. You can also schedule a private group tour. One of our groups, actually, from the Chester County Economic Development Council, is coming to the farm tomorrow to celebrate both Earth Day and National Volunteer Week. So they'll be spending time doing some planting for us. And we have over 250 trees on the property that are planted with tree tubes. And unfortunately, with the freezing and thawing that happens in the winter, some of those wooden stakes that are holding up those tree tubes have come out of the ground. So they're going to be taking some time to walk around the two sides of the farm and restake all of those trees for us so that those trees can grow and thrive this spring again. We do have some volunteer opportunities at the farm. As we like to call them, weed warriors will be needed for our forest to remove those invasive plants. Tree savers and our riparian buffers, which is what the Economic Development Council volunteers will be doing tomorrow, putting those tree tubes back upright again and giving those trees a fighting chance. We'd love for you to host a fundraiser at or for Lundale Farm. We're always looking for additional development opportunities, and we would love to be able to show you and your friends and family the farm and what we're doing to grow our local food system in our community and also the regenerative practices that we're using. We also are always looking for skills based volunteers that are willing to take photos, provide design services, videography to help us to better tell our story at the farm, and for our committees, including the audit committee, finance committee, forestry committee, and the development and marketing committee. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them at this time. If you have questions specific to the Forestry Committee, I highly recommend reaching out to Kevin Hicks, as he is the chair of that committee and an absolute wealth of knowledge. I'm happy to answer any questions related to fundraising or activities at the farm at this time. I don't see any questions in the chat, but if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself. Otherwise, I can tell you a few other exciting things that are happening at the farm this year in the meantime. At Nehi Farm, Emma has been engaged in a sustainable fashion industry project, both growing flax and growing indigo as a natural dye. So that's very exciting. We have applied for a specialty crop block grant this year through USDA and the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture to help fund more of that indigo dye project. Indigo could potentially be a sustainable cover crop for vegetable producers in Pennsylvania. So we're hoping to investigate that further and document the process. Janine, thank you for following along and being an outstanding board member for Lundale Farm. Janine is our board vice president, and I see that she has brought in Alicia Naples, who also works at RU Fit Health Services, and in the past has been a great volunteer for our 5K, and Alyssa Harvey, who is our Lundale Farm intern right now and is doing an excellent job doing a survey on consumers' reactions to local food and organic production, regenerative farming practices, and is doing some really nice interviews with our farmers. And Ann Lane, who is the coordinator for the Chester County Ag Council. It's so nice to have you here. Seeing no questions, I'm going to let you go and enjoy the rest of Earth Day. I hope you get a great dose of vitamin D and sunshine out there today, and hope to see you at the farm very soon. Thank you so much.